I'm Shay Russell from mining.com.au, and joining me today is Frazer Tabeart, the Managing Director for Alma Metals. Frazer, it's a pleasure to see you again. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Shay. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you, and I'm so thrilled you asked because I'm here to ask you about the Briggs Copper Project. Now, how is this latest drilling program going, and where are you at?
Yeah, so as we talked about a few weeks ago, we're sort of partway through drilling this very deep hole on through the whole deposit and coming out on the western side. So, we're chasing these potential high-grade feeder zones. That's what we're hoping we're going to find. So yeah, the drill hole's on track. It's in the intrusive part of the system at the moment, entirely as expected. And we expect to start seeing assay results from the upper parts of the hole start to come through in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So, that's very much a watch this space on that deep drill hole.
How will these results shape your understanding of the Briggs Copper Project?
Yeah, there's two things. One, it'll help us, if we are lucky enough to find some high grade mineralisation, it'll give us a bit of a handle on, what might be the geological controls to that, and if we can understand that better, then we can get better at predicting where higher grade is going to be, particularly in the shallower parts of the deposit, which is very important for the economic development of the asset. Secondly, because the hole's going across the entire known deposit, it provides firstly some infill drilling, so that improves our confidence, which is part of an important part of increasing our resource estimation. But it also will give us some vectors, again, both from the geology, from the alteration, and from the geochemistry to help us again target, hotter and therefore potentially higher grade zones in the overall system. So a lot of information that will come out of this one drill hole. So very, very exciting, sort of a high tech roll of the dice to some extent, but very low risk in the upper part of the hole because we're drilling what we already know is there.
Now, what can investors expect from the upcoming scoping study?
Yeah, so the scoping study is obviously a critical piece of work for this deposit. Now, we know from the resource update that we put out in April this year that we've got a large volume of low-grade copper molybdenum mineralisation. We know we're in a very good location. We're close to the coast in central Queensland. We've got a lot of enabling infrastructure is already very close to where the project is. So the scoping study is really about starting to put that into context. Is this something that can be, viably mined from from an economic perspective? And if so, what do the preliminary numbers look like, and what are the key areas that we can look at to improve on that? Where are the opportunities to improve? So for the first time, we'll actually be able to put some numbers that are specific to the Briggs project, rather than comparing it to other similar projects in Australia or elsewhere in the world, because it is unique. There are very few deposits of this scale in such a great location, and we want to start putting numbers around that reflect that.
So why is Briggs' scale and location so important in this copper market?
Well, as we know, the copper market's got long-term supply side constraints. So we have a long-term view that copper is going to be very robust and a highly sought-after commodity. A lot of the potential new deposits that could be mined are in areas that are complex. They're either complex from a sovereign risk perspective, or they're complex from a logistics and infrastructure perspective. Now, Briggs is neither of those. It's in one of the better mining jurisdictions in the world in Queensland. As I said before, very close to existing infrastructure, very close to deep water port in Gladstone. So a lot of those issues that would otherwise drive a need for higher grades to support them, we don't need that. We don't need higher grades to make projects like this work in such a good location. So here's an opportunity for a potentially new large-scale operation in Australia, delivering into what is becoming a critical mineral at a great time in that long-term copper price cycle.
And finally today, how do you see Alma performing in a strong copper price environment?
Well, we think there's going to be some supply-side constraints really coming to the fore in the next 1 to 3 years. And that should, in an ideal world, will lead to quite a strong increase in the copper price, and we're starting to see that flow through in bank and commodity analysts' future price forecasts. So we're often seeing price forecasts in the $5 to $6 a pound range. That's significantly higher than the price that we'll be using in our scoping study. So yeah, there is the potential that we can have a scoping study and then move into a pre-feasibility study, ideally delivering that in a couple of years' time when the copper market's starting to get really quite constrained and prices reflect that. And so assets like Briggs, yes, it's low grade, but because of its location and its ability to be developed because of that infrastructure, it starts to become then potentially a very important player in delivering that copper that the world desperately needs if it's going to decarbonise and meet those net zero goals in a timely manner.
Listen, Fraser, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.